Now, we all know social media is changing the way we live, but for some families, those changes have come with devastating consequences.
I didn't notice until I tried to stop. I didn't realize how addicted I was until I tried to stop. Every morning, my thumb would unlock my phone before my brain even woke up. Instagram, TikTok, Threads, scroll, swipe, repeat. The loop was endless, and I told myself it was harmless, but it wasn't. Because one day I looked up and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd been truly bored or truly present. I wasn't living anymore. I was refreshing.
We see rates of depression and anxiety and loneliness going up among young people. And I'm concerned that social media is an important driver of that youth mental health crisis.
The moment it hit me. It was a random Tuesday morning when it hit me. I'd spent 3 straight hours just checking something on my phone. When I finally looked at the clock, I felt sick. My eyes burned, my heart raced, and my head buzzed like someone had left a radio on inside my skull. For what? I couldn't even remember the content, only how it made me feel. Empty, anxious, wired.
We have to remember that social media is not one thing. It's depending on who you're talking to, what content you're seeing, what functions you're interacting with, a like button, for instance.
That's when I decided to do something insane. 30 days, cold turkey, 30 days. No social media, no shortcuts, cold turkey.
I think I'm happier. I think I find more sustainability in my life, and I think I've been more successful professionally because I don't use social media.
And because I have the privilege and the curiosity, I decided to make it scientific. I scheduled baseline scans, EEG, and fMRI to see what constant digital stimulation had done to my brain. I'd scan again after 30 days. Would my brain heal, or would I discover I was irreparably changed? Walking into silence. The first day felt like stepping into a room that had been emptied of furniture. My phone looked naked, too clean. I caught myself unlocking it every few minutes like a phantom limb searching for something that wasn't there. My dopamine system, the brain's reward network, went into shock. I'd spent years training it to crave instant micro-rewards, likes, red dots, tiny scrollable surprises. Now it was gone, and my brain panicked. The first night, I couldn't sleep. It felt like withdrawal. Restless, anxious, irritable. I wasn't quitting social media, I was quitting a drug. The dopamine loop explained. In neuroscience, there's a thing called the dopamine feedback loop. It's not about pleasure as much as it's about anticipation. Every scroll, every beep, every maybe something new releases a tiny burst of dopamine before you even see the content. This conditions you to chase uncertainty. My brain had been trained like a slot machine. Take the lever away and it keeps pulling itself anyway.
Big decrease in teen mental health, increase in depression, which was pretty well time-locked to when social media got really big and when it became super engaging.
I started writing. On day 2, I started journaling. Messy, angry pages where I confessed how little of myself I recognized. Page after page of frustration, boredom, and silence.
Never know whether social media was net good or net bad. I think it was probably net good, to be honest.
It felt stupid, but by day 5, something strange happened. The noise in my head, the fragmented, clipped thoughts, began to slow down and form lines. Sentences completed themselves. Ideas that had been half-born in the middle of memes started to come back as whole things. Boredom returned, and with it, creativity. By day 7, boredom returned like an old friend. I hadn't realized how much I relied on distraction to avoid the ache of staring at my own mind.
They're showing you what they can't look away from.
The default mode network, the brain's background processing, woke up. That's the network neuroscientists associate with self-reflection, creativity, and memory consolidation.
There's a negative side to that unchecked screen time, which can lead to poor sleep, memory issues, and poor overall mental health.
Social media hijacks that space by filling it with constant novelty.
It keeps the brain in what is called constant exploratory mode. And so the brain is constantly now in a position where it's looking for novelty, but it's actually never settling on anything.
In the silence, memories rose. Old projects I'd given up on whispered in my head. I felt a rusty part of me creak into motion. The anger phase was ugly. Around day 10, the brain fought back. I became irritable and defensive. Small slights felt like betrayals. I missed the tiny validations, the like, the quick comment, and my body missed the reward. So I walked. Long, slow walks without podcasts or noise. Just my breath and the rhythm of my stride. When you remove the noise, you start hearing yourself, and that's terrifying. The insecurities I used social media to drown out came back in vivid color. Small wins. At 15 days, something subtle shifted. I woke up and didn't immediately reach for my phone. I noticed the light on my ceiling. I tasted breakfast. The background hum of anxiety faded. Studies show dopamine receptor sensitivity can rebalance after weeks of lowered stimulation, resensitizing you to real-world rewards.
One of these harms that we know this technology brings has to do with your professional success.
Finishing a chapter, having an uninterrupted conversation, making dinner without a screen. These small victories brought a different kind of pleasure. Slow, earned, and lasting. The real test looms. But this was only the preparation. There was a bigger moment coming, the second scan. I had no idea if the two images would show dramatic healing or stubborn damage. I lay awake the night before, thinking of my first scan. Spikes in the striatum and nucleus accumbens, noisy prefrontal cortex, disjointed connectivity between regions that should talk to each other. I slept poorly, feeling like a patient about to face a verdict. Day 30, the lab again. Day 30, I walked back into the neuroscience lab. The machine looked the same, but I was not. Calm, yes, but also afraid. This was proof time. I slid into the scanner. The world narrowed to a thud of the machine in my breath. I tried to relax and think of nothing, which of course made me think of everything. What had I lost? What had I gained? And what would the images say about me? First, scan, recap. My first scan had looked like a city at midnight with all the lights blinking on and off in panic. The reward centers, the striatum and nucleus accumbens, were overactive. The prefrontal cortex, which manages attention and inhibition, looked taxed and noisy. Connectivity between regions was frayed. Emotion regulation areas were jumpy. In short, constant novelty had rewired my brain toward immediate reward and away from sustained attention.
And we always transition in our own lives between exploration and exploitation. We look for things, but then we settle on something and we use it.
The change was real, but subtle. When the technician and the neuroscientist showed me the post-detox images, I felt both relief and a strange emptiness. The scans were quieter. The spikes in my reward centers were less frequent and less intense. The prefrontal cortex showed calmer baseline activity. Connectivity between regions that had been disjointed looked like it had begun to stitch itself back together. But it wasn't a miracle, just a start. Healing in the brain is not a light switch. It's a slow unwinding of habits and rewiring of circuits. Your brain stopped shouting, the scientist said to me. It's like your brain stopped shouting and started listening. That line stuck inside me because it captured the odd mixture of stillness and sensitivity I was feeling. My brain's internal noise level had dropped. That reduction made space for attention, but it also made space for feeling. Without the numbing scroll habit, emotions were sharper, more immediate, sometimes overwhelming. Sensitivity returned. Not everyone likes it. The quiet wasn't all sweetness. I felt more vulnerable. Things felt heavier. Without a stream of compressed dopamine, the world lost its fast edges that used to distract me from sorrow and loneliness. When sadness arose, I had nowhere to scroll it away. But the sadness was honest. And honest feelings, even unpleasant ones, are part of being alive. Neuroplasticity, it's real and stubborn. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change, and it operates on stubborn timelines. The brain can re-strengthen pathways with different inputs, but it also has a memory. Years of conditioned reflexes don't vanish in 30 days. My brain had begun to rebuild attentional networks and regulate its reward responses better. But old habits, the itch to check, the gambling anticipation were still there, like grooves on a well-worn record. Re-entry into the world was a test. After the scans, I chose to reintroduce social media carefully. Not as before. I installed one app and set a strict 20-minute daily limit, with scheduled times and an app blocker to enforce it. The first time I opened it, the old rush returned. Rapid heart rate, a pleasant lightness, eyes drinking in quick novelty. My body remembered the hit before my mind did. That day taught me a humility about willpower. Quitting doesn't erase wiring. It gives you a new chance to manage it. The paradox of improved focus and lingering craving. Over the next few weeks, the benefits continued in everyday ways. I completed tasks with less mental friction. I read longer without interruption. Work felt deeper. I slept more soundly. My anxiety, while not gone, had diminished. Yet social cues, likes, comments, brief affirmations still hit me like a wave when I allowed them in. They were hooks pulling on a healing rope. What 30 days cannot fix. There are limits to a month. 30 days can recalibrate baseline activity, start to rebuild networks, and show measurable change on scans. But it cannot erase years of conditioning, chronic multitasking habits, learned avoidance strategies, and identity shaped around being constantly available. These require longer, consistent practice to rework. Also, the social environment matters. Friends, work, and culture still push for immediacy, change lives inside and outside the skull.
1 billion of us own a smartphone, and we know how addicting it can be. One former Google employee says this is no accident. Indeed, it is by design, and he became troubled by the relentless efforts of app developers to keep us glued to the gadgets.
The balanced truth. So here's the truth I want to press into your hands. Things did get better, but not like a fairy tale. My brain became less reactive and more capable of focus, but it also became more sensitive, which meant more feeling, sometimes discomfort. I couldn't go back to who I was before I ever knew these apps. I wasn't nostalgic for that person. I was grateful for the chance to be more present, even if presence sometimes hurts. Practical rules I used. If you want to try something similar, here are the simple rules that worked for me. 1. Baseline the problem. Know how much you use the apps. 2. Cold turkey for a meaningful window. 30 days is a strong start. 3. Replace. Don't just remove. Structure walks, journals, creative projects.
Hey, can you quit Facebook for a week? And you're like, of course I can. I just don't want to. That's the same answer for alcohol, smoking, like all these things. It's the exact same responses.
4. Reintroduce cautiously. Use timers, blockers, and curation. 5. Seek social support. Tell friends, partner, community to help. These aren't heroic. They are practical scaffolds that helped my brain rebuild. A personal anecdote. The dinner with my sister. I'll give you one moment that measures this change better than any scan. Dinner with my sister after day 23. We talked for 2 hours. No phones on the table. We laughed until we cried about something ridiculous she remembered from childhood. At a certain point, I noticed her face in a way I hadn't in years, the way the light softened around her jaw when she laughed. I felt the conversation land in me like a warm stone. Later, walking home, I realized I could hold a memory of the night, the way you hold an old photograph, whole and detailed. Why the science matters.
I really strongly believe that social media is the next great addiction. Smoking, alcohol, gambling, social media is right up there. Because you get the same response. You get the same dopamine responses when you're liking things, sharing things, whatever people are liking and commenting. But the more important thing to me is it's the same answer when you ask someone like...
Scans and studies translate the subjective into something objective. Patterns, spikes, connectivity. They tell stories about what we've been doing to our minds. For me, the images validated that the silence I felt inside wasn't just wishful thinking. My brain had measurably changed. That matters because real change is hard to trust until you see it. The tiny rituals showed how deep it ran.
It's the easiest thing to do because it's not. I know from personal experience that I didn't want to delete them because I was too worried I would miss out.
There were tiny rituals that betrayed how deep this habit was. Checking while the kettle boiled, unlocking in the middle of a sentence, reaching during a friend's story. Recovery began with noticing those micro-actions and rerouting them. Phone in another room, a physical alarm clock, a book on the nightstand. Little changes stacked into something bigger. sleep and dreams shifted. Within 2 weeks, my sleep improved. The half-remembered clips that had haunted my nights faded, and deeper dreams returned. Mornings lost frantic urgency. Waking without a reflex to check the phone changed the texture of my day and slowed my pace in small but meaningful ways. Social trade-offs.
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, other social media is all part of our normal routine, right? And keeping tabs on friends and family across the world.
Social media had flattened my relationships into broadcasts. When I came back with presence, conversations thickened again. Friends noticed I listened more. My partner said I seemed less distracted. That reciprocity helped reinforce the new habits. Attention begets attention. Creativity resurfaced. On day 22, I finished a piece of writing I had abandoned. Creativity depends on the brain's ability to wander and then connect ideas, exactly the process algorithmic feeds disrupt. That morning, I made a metaphor out of a wind chime and a breath. That felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Relapse taught me triggers. I relapsed sometimes. Notifications, loneliness, and news cycles pulled me back. Each slip taught me about triggers and helped me build counter habits. Short breathing exercises, a 5-minute journal entry, a walk around the block. Relapse became data, not failure. What the scans revealed. Technically, scans showed more than quieting. Functional connectivity between attention networks and limbic regions improved slightly. Areas tied to bodily awareness and sustained attention, like the anterior cingulate and insula, registered more coordinated activity.
How much time do you spend doing this? According to a survey, the average smartphone user scrolls the equivalent of 78 miles a year. That's 3 marathons. Maybe good exercise for your finger, but there is evidence it may be hurting your brain.
The amygdala's reactivity to minor threats declined. These changes matched my subjective sense of being less jumpy and more present. Work and focus matured. Work shifted from frantic multitasking to patient craftsmanship. I could enter flow states more reliably. Projects finished rather than lingered. The payoff wasn't a spike in speed, but better quality output and a deeper satisfaction. Understanding FOMO helped. FOMO isn't frivolous, it's a social hunger. Platforms monetize this hunger by turning belonging into a scoreboard. Reframing that craving as an evolutionary signal helped me manage it. Ask if an update serves you or just feeds an itch. Tools that helped me keep gains. I kept a toolkit, no phone zones, nightly screen-free routines, scheduled checks, monthly digital audits, and follow lists curated for longer thinking. These tools weren't heroic, just scaffolding for attention to rebuild, a memory that mattered. A quiet moment with my mother anchored the change. We talked for an hour. I remembered the whole conversation. That memory mattered more than any scan. It felt like evidence that presence could be practiced and kept. A deeper look at neuroplasticity. One more technical note without getting nerdy. Neuroplasticity means the brain adapts to repeated patterns.
This is a brain that's addicted to a smartphone.
These are MRI images from a recent study in Korea. All the red indicates increases in brain activity, the effects of smartphone addiction.
When you repeatedly give it fast novelty, circuits that chase novelty strengthen. When you repeatedly practice delayed gratification and sustained focus, different circuits strengthen, ones that support memory consolidation, deeper learning, and emotional regulation. The scans showed those early shifts. The real proof was behavioral. I could finish a book, and I could notice when a mood was sweeping through me rather than reflexively numbing it. A day that felt different. I remember a single afternoon that felt like a milestone. I went to a small outdoor concert with a friend. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about how I'd post the clip. I listened. The bass line moved through me. I felt the crowd as a fabric of individual stories rather than a backdrop for content. Afterward, we walked home slow and talked about our lives, no phones, just the city and the conversation. I kept that memory in its full shape, and it still makes me smile weeks later. A simple, daily template that worked.
It has shifted my day tremendously. That instead of the first thing I reach for being my phone, I reach for a thought, some inspiration for the day.
Practical templates helped. mornings without screens for the first 60 minutes, 2 blocks of deep work each day, 45 to 90 minutes, with an app blocker, 1 hour of curated social time in the evening, if any, and a weekly digital Sabbath, 3 hours to be intentionally offline. These scaffolds gave my brain predictable inputs, which it desperately needed after years of unpredictability. The ethics of our attention economy. This is not only personal. There's an ethics problem baked into the platforms we use. Companies design attention architectures because their profit model depends on it. The result is a culture optimized for time on device rather than human flourishing. My experiment was a small pushback against a system designed to commodify attention. If more people demanded design that respected attention or policy nudged business models toward well-being over endless engagement, attention might be protected as a public good rather than a product. Final, gentle encouragement. The change is possible and imperfect. You will trip, you will crave, and sometimes you will fall back. But you will also find hours you didn't know you had.
Was, first of all, turning off all phone notifications. So I literally get no notifications throughout the day. I might get a couple from text messages from certain specific people that I have notifications on for. Other than that, I don't get notifications.
You will have conversations you remember, and maybe, like me, you will scan your brain and find it a little quieter, less frantic, more listening. That quiet is not a loss of joy. It's a different quality of joy, quieter, deeper, and longer lasting. Invitation to try. If you're watching this, try a 30-day window. Tell a friend, make a small plan. Remove or limit apps. Replace time with something generative, and keep a short journal. Measure the change at the end. You don't need perfection, just curiosity and consistent small acts. Conclusion: better, but not how I expected. 30 days didn't turn me into a different person overnight. It rewired the edges of habit and returned the possibility of deeper attention. There were losses, comforts, quick dopamine hits, easy social connection, but in their place came a steadier, more durable presence. That balance is messy and human, full of backsliding and small triumphs. The ending wasn't a tidy triumph, but it was real. Things got better, not because I erased my wiring, but because I learned to live with it differently. 30 days. So yeah, my brain changed, and maybe yours can too. If you found something real in this story, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's ready to unplug for a while. Because the next story, it might just change the way you think again.